Again, I'm talking to my friend, journalist Lee Fang. You can find him on Twitter at LHFang. Let's stick with the Obama administration and actually move on to an article that you wrote for the Republic Report. You wrote at the Republic Report about, most people on the show are familiar with the TPP, which is the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a gigantic trade deal that is currently being negotiated in secret. It's been called NAFTA on steroids. Mm-hmm. It has so many horrible aspects of it. I guess let's start out by just giving a quick overview of some of the horrors within the TPP, but then also then move on to your report, which is how many of the Obama administration's officials are actually very much connected to big banks. Tell us about it.
Well, the last part of the question is very difficult. How many high-level Obama officials are connected to the banks? I don't think that actually has been figured out yet, and there are many, especially in the last 3 or 4 months that Obama has reshuffled his cabinet. A lot of folks from Wall Street have shuffled in, and that's still a story that's waiting to be recorded. I should do more on that after this call, but on the TPP...
Get to work, Lee!
Seriously, even the new... Department of Homeland Security chief, he was a banker, or he was a lawyer for J.P. Morgan Bank. So, that's the type of revolving door action that happens all the time, but is not really being called out. But on the TPP, two of the main officials tapped to manage the negotiations of that deal came from large banks. Michael Froman, the trade ambassador, he was a banker at Citigroup, and Stefan Selig, he is currently an investment banker at Bank of America. He hasn't been confirmed yet. He's still waiting confirmation, but he'll be the Undersecretary for Trade and Commerce. And what's interesting, beyond just the revolving door aspect, is that both of these individuals, when they were tapped for these top-level Obama positions, they received huge bonuses from their banks. So Froman received something like $4 million, although he donated a portion of that to charity. Still kept held on to a large chunk. And Stefan Selig received a $9 million incentive related bonus as he left.
So hold on, let's go over that one more time here. So when these people got hired by the Obama administration and got brought into the Obama administration, leaving their jobs, they didn't get saying, oh, you have to go. They actually got more money because they were going to work for the government.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of large firms that deal with the government on a regular basis, the banks, some defense contractors, they will give out special bonuses if their executives leave and join regulatory or high-level federal government jobs.
My God. Yeah, and we wonder why our country's so great. Best in the world. Man.
You'd have to look at each of these on case-by-case basis. There might be some special circumstance that would make these bribes totally appropriate, but at the same time, I think a critic could look at these and say, this is just bribery by another name, because you can't give a sitting government official $9 million, but if you wait just 1 week before they actually join the government, it's perfectly legal.
How is this possible? And I'm sorry. And look, and again, I'm talking to my friend Lee Fang, and like, buddy, you're like one of the only people who really delves into this and covers this type of corruption so much. Because again, I guess it's something that I guess on a level, Democrats don't want it either because so many we're talking about people in the Obama administration who are just swimming in this sludge. But there's something like, I'm sorry, if somebody joins the administration and gets a millions of dollars of bonus to go and work in the administration, why that isn't like a front page news story? And I know you're doing your best. I'm not blaming you. You're the one who's actually digging this stuff up. But how the hell is this stuff not front page news? How is this not a massive scandal where people are being bribed a week before they join the government because they're joining the government? How is that not just like we need to shut this damn place down? It's mind-boggling.
Look, Matthew, I agree with you. I don't know what to say.
I'm sorry, Lee. I'm not. It's like no. Answer the question. Why are you avoiding the question?
I hear you. And look, I did a story on this last year, just on the kind of general dynamic. And look, Northrop Grumman. It's many of the large banks, Morgan Stanley, financial services firms. They got it right there in their 8K for these publicly traded corporations. They say it in their filings to the SEC that they've got these special bonuses. Not only that, you just look at the financial disclosure forms. If you're a high-level government official or a fairly high-level congressional staffer, you have to file annual and initial, when you're hired, personal finance disclosures. And I've taken a look at hundreds of these, and I'm sure some of these bonuses, like I said, are appropriate. They're fair. There's nothing shady going on. But I definitely see a pattern when I see folks who are going into, the Senate Armed Services Committee, and they're coming there from a defense contractor, and they've got this kind of random $600,000 bonus on top of a very large salary. And then they're about to oversee their old employer. I mean, it's very strange.
So let's discuss a little, what are some of the potential consequences of the TPP if it goes through? And again, a lot of this it's being negotiated in secret. We've seen some things that have been leaked out by WikiLeaks, but this is something that's actually going on in private. Some drafts have been released. But what are some of the consequences for the world if this trade thing actually goes through?
Well, there are many consequences, but as it relates to the banks and some of these large corporations that are maneuvering to influence the deal, the leaked text that you're referencing states that this trade deal will be like other trade deals that provide a provision called the investor state provision that basically allows corporations to take entire governments to these foreign tribunals to challenge regulations that are proposed in those countries and to knock them down. So for the TPP, it's looking like, at least from these leaked texts, the banks will be allowed to challenge entire governments, the governments involved in the deal, if they're thinking about enacting certain regulations on derivatives, on these rules called capital outflows, also on so-called firewalls between financial institutions, basically what we used to have in Glass-Steagall. Separating different financial institutions. So the banks will have the power to challenge these regulations if certain governments negotiating or that sign the TPP attempt to enact them.
And it's not only just, the finance side of it is gigantic. There's also the environmental side of it where, so say, even further, say an individual state in the United States bans fracking. So a multinational corporation could theoretically sue the United States, and it additionally could sue the state itself to say, you know what, the fact that you've banned fracking is actually, it's hurting our market share, it's hurting our business. And so theoretically, this court that would exist, that would be created in the TPP, would have the authority to perhaps even overrule not only nation environmental laws, which suck already, but what little. So if a state decides to go take a step further and do something good, a state law could theoretically be overturned, and not even just overturned. They could be liable for damages against this company because by chance they banned fracking in their state.
A lot of critics I've talked to of the deal have said this is less about trade. I mean, trade is a big portion of this, and more of a Trojan horse for deregulation, for taking apart regulations that you can't democratically go after. This is another way for companies to really take an axe at, as you mentioned, environmental, financial, intellectual property rules. I mean, it goes across the board.